Welcome to episode 8 of season 6 of Whole Lot of Wolves. I'm your host, Joshua Buckley, with co-host Paul LePage.
Hello.
Joining us on the socials in Baltimore, Danny Paletti.
Good evening.
I like your esports thing has made it into the countdown. Nice job, Paul. Nice job, Danny. And back again from Charlotte, one of our longtime faves, Mr. Brian Donley. How's it going?
Hey, everybody. Great to see you all again.
All right. Paul, last week I predicted Wolves were going to get a point, but it was going to feel like a loss. I hate being right. It stunk. Wolves got a much-needed 1-1 point away at Spurs, but it did feel like the 3 points were there for the taking.
I wouldn't say it was 3 points there for the taking. I think it was set up in such a way that it would have turned out to be the perfect smash and grab, and you were 30 seconds away from accomplishing that. So when it's there for the taking, it's like we dominated and we really stuck it to, and we didn't. We played well in the circumstances against a tough team away from home, where many would have thought we wouldn't have come away with anything. So to have that, to get the point, great, but just the way it was coughed up, it's always going to be a killer.
Yeah, Brian, it was just tough to watch there at the end, wasn't it? You just had a feeling something bad was going to happen.
Oh, that was brutal. Actually, I was the opposite. And so the rest of the game, we've been so good at just kind of containing. I saw that ball kind of just like slide through everybody, and you just see there was no chance that Johnstone had at it. That was rough, but yeah, I was happy to get off the mark though.
Well, let's get to the game itself. You mentioned Sam Johnstone. It was a very interesting lineup, Brian, because it was almost like, this is what I liked about it. Vitor, a lot of criticism is, well, he sticks with his system. He doesn't want to go out of the system. Well, he definitely went out of his regular system. Not only that, he rewarded a lot of guys that did well in the cup game on Tuesday in the win against Everton. One of those was Sam Johnstone. One of those was Santi Bueno. What did you think of the back four and having those two guys be back in on Saturday?
Yeah, I was a little surprised to see Santi from the start, but man, he really put a shift in. He was fantastic. So that was a pleasant. That ended up being a very pleasant surprise. But yeah, I kind of figured he would kind of stick to what worked against Everton from the shape, but I was definitely surprised to see Santi from the start. But yeah, no, he did great, which was very, very happy to see that.
What do you think of that back four, Danny?
I can definitely say that in the group chat, I was a little skeptical pre-game when we saw it come out that he was sticking with essentially the same as we saw in the Carabao Cup. I think just, I was a little worried that we were taking, too much confidence from an okay win, a solid win, but against an Everton that had rotated a bit on a midweek game that was kind of flat for atmosphere and all these things that, we were sort of getting ahead of ourselves in terms of that back four being able to line up in the Premier League. And I was happy to be proven wrong. There were a few shaky moments, especially there was one in the first half, which we had a good laugh about, where I was watching, where Doc definitely that slide tackle that earned him the yellow was like, I've been there in my own sports journey, obviously not on the same level at all, but like where you're like, I used to be that fast. I used to be able to get to that ball. And he just completely took out the man. So there were a couple hairy moments, but otherwise I thought the back line performed pretty admirably throughout, which was a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, so what do you think of their defending, Danny, especially there in the first half, even though Kudus was kind of having his way down the left flank, including a disallowed goal, but it seemed like the defending was doing pretty well.
Yeah, I think overall solid. I think that's kind of what we want to see with with our defensive midfielders being able to drop in and help out. I think there's always, since we've sort of swapped out some experienced wing backs, fullbacks, whatever, for guys who have less Premier League minutes, I think that we are going to see those things slip through, and we just hope we don't get punished for them. Obviously, Johnstone had to come with an amazing save to push the ball into the bar. But honestly, other than that, there weren't many clear opportunities that Spurs had, especially in the first half. And like beyond the first 15 minutes or so, we were pretty good in possession for the first 15 minutes, and then they really took charge until halftime. And even during that period of their dominance, we didn't really see any kind of clear-cut chances where someone got through. Obviously, there was one big one, but it was about 3 yards offside. I'm not sure I can count that.
Paul, that back four didn't hold up in the second half. They decided to go to the back five. Did you feel like that was a good decision, bringing in Chichua, who I thought was really strong in the second half, and Agbadu as well?
Yeah, again, a little to what was previously mentioned. If you've got that flexibility within the squad to tweak it and change it mid-game, I think that's a distinct advantage, and fair play for Vito for recognizing that and making the call, because certainly out of the two sides, each half, I think we looked not necessarily stronger, but a little more cohesive in the second half, and we just had a better plan for it. I think that allowed a little more joy down the flanks. It opened up some balls to be played through the lines, and I think out of everyone, it was probably John Arias's best 45 minutes in a Wolves shirt so far. And I think that had a large part to do with that formation switch, and not only being able to stifle Spurs versus the first half, but just to give us that extra bit of spark ourselves.
Yeah, one thing about Arias, I saw a lot of people saying, well, he had a great game, but was really rough on the corner kicks. Danny, I don't know if you saw this as well. He was struggling, it seemed like, because I didn't realize that Spurs Stadium has an elevated pitch. So you could tell he was like trying to get to the very edge as far back as he could get, but he clearly wanted to be standing where the drop-off was.
Yeah, and he can't spare any height. So
yeah.
I mean, it's one of those quirks, of English football, I guess. Because even this ultra modern stadium with a go-kart track underneath of it, still doesn't have that much space between the corner and the advertising boards. And I have to mention, there was a moment where we had a corner, I think it was in the second half, but I couldn't be sure, where he doesn't even clear the first man. It doesn't even make it to the first man, but luckily it gets called back because there's, a foul before he took it. So they got to retake it. And then the preceding corner was much better. It was right in the middle. Not the one that we scored from, but good to get some mulligans on those so that he can hopefully sharpen those up.
Speaking of scoring, Brian, would you have imagined that Santi Bueno would be the one that gave the Wolves their first lead of the Premier League season?
Absolutely not. You could have given me, well, I guess there's 25 guys on the squad. I probably would have guessed 22 names before I would have come to Santi.
And the other three are goalkeepers.
And the other three are goalkeepers, yeah. Tom King. Oh, no, he's gone. So he can put a boot on it.
Well, what do you think, though? Andre had a really great shift as well. Possibility for him, man of the match, right, Brian?
I mean, he's always steady. Oh, hopefully it continue to always be steady. But I think man of the match has got to go to Santi. He was everywhere, just everywhere in the back end. I can very much hope this form for Andre continues. He can be man of the match every match going forward. But I think this one does belong to Santi to me.
Danny, do you think all this Andre not making the starting 11 has kind of inspired him?
Well, first of all, I hope it's behind us because I just can't handle him coming in and then going out and all this stuff where we don't really have any information. It was like almost better when it was like Cunha, and we know that he's got this big ego, and like we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I've heard some various rumors, but none that I want to repeat here because they don't seem, I have no idea about their credibility. But so I'll be really happy if it's behind us. And yeah, I just think, Andre is one of our best players, but easily, and in a team that's somewhat weak, which I think we all sort of believe after this window, a little bit weakened at least. You really need to be platforming your best players, and Andre has got to be in that, probably easily top 3. And we can't afford to have him being on the bench in virtually any game.
Talking about one of our best players, João Gomez was subbed off in the 64th minute, Paul. He was not pleased. But I feel like that was pretty understandable because he was already sitting on a yellow, and it just seemed like he had another yellow in him.
Yeah, definitely at that stage of the game, the opponent away from home, it was gonna get to a point where he'd either need to make a tackle and it could be mistimed and him risk a sending off, or try and get one of those tactical fouls where you stop in a quick break or something. So I obviously you understand this disappointment, but I would have said good call from Vitor again in that situation. I think it was warranted. I think Bellegarde coming in and doing pretty well bodes well, based on the fact that at least he's got the trust from the manager that if he is one of those midfielders that he can come and rely on in the centre of the park, then he can do that. And not only did he contributed his defensive duties up until that 94th minute, but it did give us that extra spark in the middle of the park going forwards as well. So when you got someone who can pick up the ball, run with it, shield it, draw fouls, which could be important when you get into that late stage of the game, put some set piece work in their box, that's all bodes well for Bellegarde having a more formal role to play as a centre mid.
Well, the Mosquera squeezy bummometer was definitely running high, Brian, and then in the 94th minute, just couldn't hold it. Of all the people, João Palhinha, who we've been like linked to him for years. Oh, this is Neves' replacement. Wasn't even a attacking mid. It's a freaking bruiser back there and just delivers a beautiful shot. Well, I mean, what was going through your mind right then?
Oh, again, as I was saying earlier, shock, disappointment. It was one of those, like, you saw him hit it, and for a brief second, you're like, oh, that's gonna go wide. Then you see, you're like, no, that's uncatchable. Like, there's nothing you could do. It was just perfectly placed. It was honestly, I think at that point we were so close to the end. I had been already preparing for victory, so I was already basically, I would say, like half tuned out, ready to start celebrating the day. Then I was like, wait, what? No, oh,
so I can
it was
blame
tough.
you then.
Oh no,
ready to celebrate
I
the
didn't turn
day.
it off. My brain was ready to celebrate. So yeah, it was that was very tough. But yeah, it was a wonder strike. Like, it was just every time they replay it, I was like, yeah, man, he didn't have a chance. Like, Johnstone just didn't have a chance. It was just perfectly placed right through traffic. There was nowhere else there was literally nowhere else he could have put it and either not get it deflected away or miss the goal entirely. So it's got one of those,
Paul,
like,
I know you weren't
game of
ready to
inches
celebrate.
cliche.
Paul, I know you weren't mentally celebrating a win just yet, were you?
No, even after that equaliser, I was mentally preparing for a defeat, So, but that is, I'm going to take some part of that blame as well, because I was fully on board with Tolo coming on and getting a breakaway goal to make it 2-0. I was firmly on that train. So I'm going to take some responsibility for the drop points on that one as well.
You heard it, Brian and Paul to blame.
Yeah.
Your hate mail there. Even though he gave up that last goal, Danny, wasn't really his fault. I don't think anybody's saving that goal. Sam Johnston, we brought it up last week. Does he have a chance? And everybody kind of poo-pooed it, but it looks like he might be the number one.
Yeah, I hope so, just because I think setting the precedent that having performances like that keeps you in the squad, I think, or in the starting lineup, I think is a good precedent to set. I'm gonna be a little bit of a downer here and just say that I'm not looking forward to, weeks and weeks of sort of questioning that. I'd really rather have a settled number one for the whole season and not have any questions about that. And I still prefer Jose Sa in terms of, his where I think his ceiling is at. But it's undeniable that Jose Sa's form has been terrible to start the season. Sam Johnstone, has really taken his chance, and I just don't see any way that you can drop him at this point.
I think what's noticeable in the goalkeeping department, and really the trust that they've got as even running out a back four, that everyone just seems to know their job a little better when Johnson's in goal. In that you see our setup defending corners, for example, that it seems like bigger teams like to target the fact that Johnson's a little smaller. He's not going to come and try and claim the ball with two hands and catch it. So there's men right on him that they're stopping him. But that means that what the defenders need to do is actually go out and attack and defend the ball. So that's one problem solved. You've not got that worry of Sarr coming herring out and potentially missing it. Defenders have got to defend, and they seem to know that when Johnson does come and get a fist on it, that's what he's going to do, and it's going to clear it that way. So it looks like there's a little more cohesion at the moment, which is good. I think they've got a little better trust in Johnson as far as his kicking goes. It was largely okay on Saturday. I know he put one out of bounds, but for the most part, he's got that in his arsenal to either start the play or be that extra man that can take a pass and move it on as they build out from the back. So right now, I think it's definitely Johnson's jersey to lose.
I definitely did not have the Santi Bueno Sam Johnston's redemption tour on the bingo card for this year at all, especially this early. Paul, what do you think, though? 1 point. Are you viewing this as glass half empty, glass half full?
I think you got to look at it as half full, just in terms of the next upcoming run of fixtures, and just looking for some positives in that. Really, that point could have been where our season starts and where you can kick on from. So I'm going to take it as a positive.
What about you, Brian?
Yeah, same. I mean, literally, if you had said a week ago or even 3 days ago, hey, would you take a 1-1 draw away at Spurs and be happy? And I would have said yes, 100% yes. And we got that. The way we got it was a little frustrating. Like the way that you always say, you feel like you dropped two, but we're off the mark now, hopefully. And everyone looked like a professional Premier League team for the first time in a month and a half. So hopefully we can take this as a springboard and say, hey, you guys now know you guys look like you know what you're doing. You actually look like you can work together. Now you've proven you can actually hang with a good team, because like Spurs aren't a slouch. They've been good so far this year, and they have a lot of good quality players. They will end up in the top half of the table. They end up probably in Europe. So if you can hang with them, you can hang with most of the other teams. Now we need to start going into like actually getting some wins.
Danny, half empty, half full.
Yeah, definitely half full for me. I know it's still frustrating not to have a win, but I do think that there's There's a lot of positives in there. Some of the things that the other two have said, I think it was a much more professional performance. It was a much more cohesive performance. That's about how the players applied themselves, but also, the way that Vitor set them up to play. Those are good signs. And we're maybe clutching at straws, that we might watch the next 3 fixtures and say that was a blip and, it's all gone back to hell. And, that's totally valid. But I think in context, playing away from home, yes, it's Spurs who we tend to get results against, but it's against Thomas Frank who we tend not to. And they're sitting in 4th on the table. And I think we still think of Spurs as the team that finished 17th. And I just, this is a fairly strong team that I think, the team that we saw play against Leeds, we never would have thought could go toe to toe with them for 90 minutes in the way that we did, a very competent performance. So there's more than enough there to see that there is room for improvement, but also like active improvement happening. So yeah, overall glass half full, and the boring answer is, of course, time will tell.
I like the word competent. Competent was a good way to put that performance, I'd say.
Well, we have another match. Chance get those first 3 points. First 3-pointer win on Sunday. It's at 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central Time on Sunday against Brighton. And joining us is Paul Dorsey, Stateside Seagulls. How's it going, Paul?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Well, not bad. Although usually after we've done playing with you guys, we're always pissed off because of the fact you always seem to come into Molineux and get 3 points. Do you think that's you think you guys are preparing for that again?
I hope so. It's been a fairly inconsistent start to the season. So the win on Saturday against Chelsea, I feel like that could always kind of go against us though, because we're on such a high. It's just kind of like, okay, well, when's the next shoe going to drop? So we'll see. I hope that we can continue that run of form though from Chelsea and kick on for the rest of the season.
How are some of those victories really set expectations for the season, Paul? Where do you think Brighton are aiming this season?
Yeah, I'd say at the start of the season, because we missed out on Europe so closely last year, I think that the expectation going into this year was kicking on and really getting into that European competition again. And like I said, I think that the start of the season has been really inconsistent so far. So we had a big win against Chelsea. We've dropped points though against Tottenham and Fulham. Really, those are the big dropped points opportunities. We also lost to Bournemouth. That one we were kind of fighting against it the entire game, so I'm not surprised about that one really. And Bournemouth started out really strong too, so that one was kind of, I guess, to be expected in a way. But to lose a 2-goal lead against Tottenham, to lose a win potentially in the last few minutes against Fulham, it's just kind of one of those things where we're trying to figure out where we can get the points and whether or not we can actually be in that European competition throughout the rest of the season. And hopefully this Chelsea win on Saturday is really the thing that kind of kicks us forward and is that motivation to really kick on and get a bunch of points now. But it's kind of one of those things where it's kind of wait and see if this is, how the season's going to go, or if this is just kind of a flash in the pan and, it's going to be more inconsistency going forward.
So how do you see Brighton lining up for the matchup on Sunday?
I think it's going to be fairly consistent to what we lined up with on Saturday. So probably a 4-2-3-1. That's kind of been our kind of formation so far this season. I wouldn't imagine it's going to change too much. Maybe some different players into the starting rotation. So maybe Danny Welbeck, he had 2 goals on Saturday coming in as a sub. So maybe him instead of Jorginho starting up top. And then maybe Brian Garuda coming in, and hopefully he can get another goal at Molineux. But maybe he could come in as a starter instead of potentially Diego Gomez, though it's hard to take him out of the squad. He had 4 goals in the Carabao Cup. So, there's a lot of competition for those places. I don't see too much change. Maybe also Stefanos Zimas, he's a really strong attacking prospect that we have, and he's been slowly being integrated into the team, getting more game time. coming in as a sub, so he could definitely have more of an impact going forward. So it wouldn't be a surprise to see him as well. But I think it's going to be fairly consistent to what we came out with against Chelsea. And, I think that there are a lot of good options. We're just trying to figure out which one are the best ones to kind of move forward and really, have that consistent run of form.
Well, Paul, thank you very much for joining us once again.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
And no good luck for you on Sunday. The rest of the season.
Same to you.
Yeah. That was Paul Dorsey
Okay,
from Stateside Seagulls. Thanks for joining us. So, guys, a lot to really think about as far as Wolves' side for this matchup. And Paul, it seems like we all kind of feel like we know who the goalkeeper is going to be, but is Vitor going to go back four? Is Krejci the main guy leading in the back line again? What do you think?
I think a little like just what Paul was mentioning then as regards to their setup. I think when Vitor ran the four against Everton in the League Cup, it was because he was probably predicting that was what they were going to come out with. So he was matching them up. So based on Brighton's formation, I could potentially see them doing that. I think the only big worry probably with the four at the back is our potential vulnerability down the flanks, especially if you've got the likes of Matoma coming up against Doherty. Probably I don't really fancy that. I'd probably start Chachua and just say, do not leave that man's back pocket and just follow him wherever he goes. So it's a tricky one. I'd love to see the four at the back. I just think it gives us that extra onus, like offensively, certainly at home, but I'm just scared of the threat of the opposition.
Brian, earlier in the comments by C. Waldron, he said, what can Vitor do to get Hwang on track? But man, I don't think anybody right now wants to see Hwang on that starting 11 sheet, do they?
No, absolutely not. And that was just so bad because he seems like such a nice guy. And he's like, when he's on, he's so much fun. But I don't want to see Wang on the starting 11 again. And also, like, I want to see more Fair. I got to see more Fair Lopez. Like, they keep getting in game states where it's not right for him to be the sub to come on. But I want to see more of him. Yes, I don't know what you can do to get Wang going, because I think, unfortunately, what he needs is to get fed. Like, he's a slasher. He's not going to carry the ball into the box. He's just going to needs to be that, what do they call, like the fox in the box, just like have a ball come to him and score. And he just needs to have he has to have one nice moment and it could turn him around. But he keeps just he keeps doing stuff that's not what is his game. And whether that's he's being put in the wrong spot or I think he still has so little confidence that I'm not sure what it's going to take to knock him out of it. And it's I think at this juncture, though, I don't think you can put him out again as the starter at the moment.
Yeah, he's just the ultimate, if he has confidence, he's great. But if his confidence isn't there, I mean, that was a rough watch for him in the first half, and you hate to see it.
I want to point out, I do find it kind of interesting. People keep sort of going around and around about, is Hwang going to start? Why is he starting? And all these things. I don't pretend to know. I never style myself as a tactico of any kind. But I just, we now are on every manager since Bruno Lage has loved to put him in. And I know that he's been through better periods in his time, but they must be seeing something that warrants that. And whether it's what he does out of possession or whatever, just a fair warning, I will not be that surprised to see him in the starting lineup against Brighton. I don't think he's a lock by any stretch. I think we have options, but if it's what he does out of possession and we're expecting Brighton to represent some threat, then, whatever Vitor sees in him to make him start him, he might see that in this game as well.
I think it's what he does in training, honestly.
Yeah, I was going to
'Cause
say, I think Hwang's just a really good
I
professional.
think he is, and that's why Manetzi keeps getting run, is because
Although
like he
Manetzi,
works his butt off. It seems like he takes direction well. I think he just, not to be like a knock as a teacher's pet, but like I think he's just the guy who, when the coach sees him, again, we can't see training, so we don't know, but I have to imagine that like he's working his socks off in training, and every time the coach tells him something to do it, he tries his best to do it. Whether he can do it or not, it's a different matter, but he always tries. And I think Vitor just loves guys who try their best. Again, that's why Munetzi's here.
There's certain games against certain opponents at certain times of the year when Manetzi's the perfect fit, and Saturday was one of them, just because he was up and down, covered a bunch of ground, did the dirty work, but wasn't always that effective going forwards or linking the attack. But that's not to say that he was in and around the goal when that happened. So there's definitely a role for him when needed. It's just such it's like sometimes playing with 10 men when you've got someone like Manetzi doing that distinct job, but then you have someone like Hwang who just throws up an absolute shocker when you're just looking for everywhere for that piece of creativity in such a good game, and it's just not there. Like that one moment where in the first half he did that really good bit of skill to bring the ball out, but then his pass was about 5 yards undercooked.
That was
knocked
brutal.
Doherty out of position. They were chasing back. It was just like, why can't it all be stitched together that when he's good? Like it's just.
During that moment, that was one of those moments you're pointing at the TV, like when you're like watching your kids or something. I was pointing at the TV, like he's open, he's right there, and you saw the ball go that way. And I was like, this is gonna be amazing. Like, it looked like it was arcing perfectly, and then it just died, and then the guy sprinting the other way, and I was like, we're just gonna concede a goal here, and then it's gonna be brutal. But
by the way, Manetzi in the first half, most duels won with 10, most clearances 7, most aerial duels won 4, most tackles 3, most fouls 1, 2. And Vitor was praising him after that match. I mean, look, guys, Manetzi's not going anywhere in that starting 11. And it's kind of what I brought up last week. Sometimes it's not the 11 most talented players. Really you're trying to find the best 11 that fit. And I think he does fit there. Danny, are we ever going to see the JSL Arokadare front two?
I wouldn't hold your breath. I think it's, Vitor's being coy. I think he, sees it as a possibility, but more as kind of like a, emergency situation at the end of a game. So will it ever happen from the start? I'm extremely skeptical. I know it'd be fun to watch. I would have a lot of fun watching it myself, but I just, I'm not sure that Vitor's that interested in setting us up in that way.
I think if it does happen, Paul, like everybody just needs to post that video that's out there where the fans yelling, Pereira, 4-4-2, and he turns around and says, fuck off. Still one of my favorite that's out there. All right, let's go to the prediction board. Paul, me and you being eternal optimists, we got 2 total points last week. Woo! So we are tied for first with Danny. Alex is in second with 3, and the guest spot only has 1 point. Brian, what do you think it's going to be?
I don't know. This is a really hard one to guess. I was trying to remember where we ended on. 2-2. Draw.
2-2 draw. Okay. Danny?
I'm going to be a downer. I have a lot of reservations about this game. I think we're in a weird cycle where the home crowd is maybe not as helpful, which is totally understandable because people are just very nervous about our situation. And I wonder if we'll start to see better performances away than at home. And add to that the fact that Brighton always seem to get a result against us. And honestly, what Paul Dorsey said that Welbeck might start, if he is brave and goes for that back four, and we have Matoma and Welbeck against like Welbeck against Santi or something, I'm very worried. So I'll leave a tiny bit of optimism and say 2-1 Brighton.
2-1 Brighton. I love how that's your optimism.
We'll score.
Yeah, we'll score.
And the one goal will be from open play. So there you go.
Okay. Alex wasn't able to make it tonight. He also said 2-1 Brighton. Paul?
I'm of the thinking that another positive draw is actually okay. If it's a building block against a decent side who always do well against us at Molineux. If we got some positives like we saw on Saturday to take away from it, it may be high scoring draw or something like that. We see more flashes of players that haven't quite started hitting the heights. I'd take that as a positive. But I'm going to blame Brian because he pinched my prediction.
Sorry.
So I'm going to go super positive. I'm going to say we are due a result against Brighton at home. It never happens. So let's keep those green shoots growing and we will go with a 2-0 win.
2-0.
A clean sheet. My God.
Wow.
2-0. Oh,
How many red cards are they going to get for that to happen?
That's harsh. That's Well, I said last week I anticipated a draw, and it was going to be a draw that felt like a loss. Well, this time, I think it's going to be a draw, but I think it's going to be a draw that we're pretty happy about afterwards and kind of feels like a win, a late one, maybe 85th minute, maybe a little tea time, perhaps. I'm going to say a 1-1 draw.
No Stupid Questions is brought to you by Esfuerzo Wines. Located just north of Santa Barbara, California, Esfuerzo Wines showcases passion and 3 generations of winemaking in every bottle. Whether you're toasting some Vino de Vitor or winding down after a day of work, let Esfuerzo Wines transport you to the heart of wine country with each sip. Now at esfuerzowines.com, you can use the promo code VITOR, that's VITOR, at checkout to receive a 30% discount off your order. And don't forget to try the special edition 1-pack wines to show your passion and support for Wolves with each glass. This message is intended for those of legal drinking age. Do not drink and drive. Excessive alcohol consumption may be harmful to your health. If you or someone you know is struggling with alcohol abuse, please seek help. Esfuerzo Wines reminds you to enjoy their product responsibly and in moderation.
It's that time of the show where we open it up to you, get you involved by answering all of the questions related to this wonderful team of ours. You can do that on the socials or by emailing hello@wholelotofwolves.com or right here live in the chat comments if you were tuned in to our stream. It is a segment sponsored by Esfuerzo Wines where you can get that 30% off your order by adding the coupon code VITOR when checking out at esfuerzowines.com. First up, we have our friend Todd DeWitt. Todd has emailed hello@wholelotofwolves to ask which professional wrestler or wrestling personality would you like to see collaborate with the Wolves to do a line of merchandise with, and what sort of merch would you like to see?
This one's set up just for you, Paul.
Yeah,
I know. I was going to ask Brian if he got anything, if he was any tinge of wrestling in his blood to help answer. But if not, I can take it in full.
I have very little wrestling information. It's all from like the 80s or maybe early 90s.
Todd must have missed the fan cast questions deadline, so he's asking us the wrestling question.
I think that must know. But I can imagine Joao Gomez would look amazing in the Macho Man Randy Savage sunglasses.
I was thinking Macho Man. That would be great with the tassels.
Oh yes,
that is it. We could be setting them up pretty good for some Halloween costumes. It's just around the corner. So if any of them are listening, guys, we could pick out some good Halloween costumes for you.
That of course also means our annual what Halloween costume is every player.
Oh yes,
yeah,
that's next week.
On this one, I'll say that I'm going to go with a. When we were mentioning the other week about new owners. I'm going to go like this brand new ownership conglomerate, all of these big heavy hitters when it comes to sports ownership, and they would be the NWO, the New Wolves Order. So that and we'll just have that old gold and black NWO, and that would be our wrestling theme.
Who would be the best owner out of the wrestling world?
Isn't there?
I mean, obviously
guy
The
that
Rock
owns
can't afford it,
Fulham.
even though he'd like to, because he can't buy it for $10 like the XFL. And I can't imagine Vince McMahon would be a great owner for an English soccer.
Yeah.
We'd have the most injuries of any team.
Yeah, it is slim pickings when it comes to
Speaking of wrestlers,
comes to wrestling owners and those types
Although,
of organizations.
How awesome would it be after the match for him to walk down and go up to Stuart Atwell and boom, flying elbow.
yeah, we need more beef with the masters of VAR.
Yeah.
I don't know. The only answer I ever have for this kind of thing is Gold Dust, which is really hearkening back to my youth when I actually did watch wrestling. But he's long since moved on.
Okay, next up we have Kato, who is on duties on X. This is a really good one because he says greetings from Melbourne, Australia. So hi down under Kato.
We found that one. We always wondered, Paul, who that one person was in Australia all the time, all these years listening.
Yeah, so that could be. So we got Kato to add to Pedro Neto's mom in Portugal. That 1%. They say, love the show and it's some positivity. I will believe we will go on a bit of a run the next couple of months as players become more familiar with the league and their teammates. Thoughts on this? Brian, what do you think of Kato's positivity?
I love it. I was thinking about this the other day because I didn't get a chance to pull it, but it seems like over the last number of years, our theme is the first 10 games are terrible. We play European quality football for like 15 games, and then we peter out. So we could just repeat that pattern again. And as long as we end up at 17th, then it'll just be another Wolf season. Because like there'll be about 3 weeks in March where we'll be like, do we have a shot at 7th? Is this something we can do? And then so it's just yes, absolutely. Sounds great.
This is what I've been saying all along on like when people are saying, why doesn't Vitor know his best starting? Because he doesn't know the players. And yeah,
Just met
he's
them all.
starting to learn these guys now. Very clearly, Krejci is showing where his best position is, and that's as a left-footed center back. So, he's starting to learn these guys. They're also having to adjust to the Premier League. Okadare was one who brought it up when he signed and said, hey, it's probably going to take me a little bit to get used to Premier League. And that's a big dude, too. So imagine these smaller guys. So, yeah, I think as they get more familiar and as Vitor gets more familiar, I do expect more points.
Mm-hmm. And in a similar vein, recent guest Greg Ellis at Greg Ellis Comedy on X, he asks, do you think VP deliberately gave the rest of the Premier League a 5.5 game head start because he knows how good we'll be from now on? So I think Greg's a little.
Greg's got his comedy routine going.
Yeah.
Hey, we're still not out of the title race. Mathematically still in it.
What are the catchability rankings? Our
Low,
catchability rankings
very low.
Yeah. Very low.
No, I'll just point out that, I think that both of these questions are sort of in opposition to a lot of the doom and gloom that's out there. And I totally understand the doom and gloom, and I will not deny that I participate in a lot of it from time to time. And I just, I think that there's a good case to be made also that, Vitor has shown in the last season that he can pull results together in both pretty ways and ugly ways, and he can continue to do that. We also know that, both that a lot of these players were more than capable last year. Players like Agbadou, it's not like he's done with soccer for the rest of his life, like he's more likely to revert to the mean than he is to stay as bad as he has been. There's plenty of reasons to see that improvement could be coming. It doesn't mean that I'm not pessimistic. I think when those pessimistic attitudes are put out there, and that if there's any kind of argument, then it's like the assumption is that if I'm on the other side, then I must be an optimist. I want to make it clear, not an optimist at this point. I'm not optimistic about the season, but my pessimism has been brought down slightly by the result and especially the performance at Spurs. It just seems like that's enough to show me that there is something there. So less pessimism, not necessarily optimism.
I think I'm the same largely. I think my fear and where the worry around Vitor comes in is, has he been found out in that he had that really good season, kept the team up, but based on his history, has he really got that quality to kick us on to the next level? Then at the same time, was it a flash in the pan? Now that they can watch a Vitor Pereira team on film, these coaches will pick him apart and know where his faults are and how he can be got at. So that's kind of tempering my expectations right now. But I just think this next run of games is crucial. But I could see it start to click with a good result on Saturday. I think a really good sign of where he is and where the team is will be ultimately going up to Sunderland after the international break. That's going to be a genuine pulse of where we are as a team and as a coach and how our season's going to unfold, I think.
Yeah, there definitely was some negativity after that match, Danny. Yes. Our favorite
are you gonna name
Andrew
him?
Smith, I am talking about you. I love you.
And it got personal in terms of
It got personal.
college
He started
football team.
dogging
Oh.
Alabama gonna lose to Georgia, man. I was taking strays I didn't even think I deserved. And
Yeah,
sometimes I do
since
deserve
Paul brought
it.
up the international break, I also want to point out that, we're coming up on one. We'll talk about it in the next episode, I'm sure. But obviously having even just a good performance against Brighton will mean a lot going into that international break, knowing that, we're still building on something. The players that are sticking around will have something to work on. And so, again, this is probably not a great advertisement for how good this game is going to be on Sunday. But as long as we can keep it tight and show a pretty competent, I'll use that word again, defensive performance and show that we can at least create something, then that could be enough just to sort of continue building on things for those more plum fixtures after the break.
This week's No Stupid Questions. Continue to send those in to hello@wholelotofwolves.com or at WLW pod on X. And remember, head over to Espresso Wines. Use that coupon code Vitor for that 30% off your order when you check out.
Okay, Brian, how can people get a hold of you and go watch some matches with you in Charlotte?
Yeah. So it's at Wolves Charlotte on Twitter and Instagram, as well as we have a Facebook group. It's called Charlotte Wolves FC, or also on the Worldwide Wolves site, and that has a link directly to my email. So feel free to reach out to me there. We usually meet up every couple weeks or so at a place called Dom's Dive Bar, which is a great little spot, and we love to meet anybody from coming in from town. We actually just got a new pal from Winston-Salem. Hopefully he'll come down in a couple weeks. So if you're in the General Carolinas, come on down anytime.
And that brings this week's show to an end. Thanks to Danny on the socials, Alex producing, and you, our audience, as we do this for each and every one of you and have a lot of fun doing it. So thank you. You would be doing us a huge favor and helping to grow the Whole Lot of Wolves pack by giving us a 5-star review on that podcast listening platform that you utilize, along with subscribing to Whole Lot of Wolves on YouTube, liking that content. You get that notification of when we put stuff out and when we go live. So we're going to be back live on Sunday for a reaction show after the Brighton game. So if you, like me, you're also cheering on a European victory in the Ryder Cup this week, you can also say up the mighty Wolves.
Esports.